Yes, as a matter of fact, I can remember some of the first clubs I went to and the bands I saw. I can, yeah. Now, I come from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania area, and I moved to New York in '79. I've been coming to New York before that to go to Max's and CBGB's and see all the punk rock bands. It's very inspiring. Pennsylvania was getting pretty dull and worn out. 3 Mile Island in '79 is what made me decide, hey, I'm going to go to New York and live there. It's a lot cheaper and a lot more exciting. It was great, and I've been there ever since. So much amazing stuff going on. People coming from all over the world, starting and creating their own lives there. You didn't have to have a job, particularly, except the most basic minimum to pay the rent, which was pretty much nothing in those days. So you were kind of free to create your own life, which is what was happening. That's all over now, of course. My favorite band from the old days was Destroy All Monsters. It had the bass player from the MC5, the guitar player Ron Ashton from the Stooges, and a few other people, and they were just incredible to see. I saw them in Max's for the first time, and then I saw them at CBGB's, and I saw them about 8 more times after that. Bought their single. They were just incredible. But I saw everyone who played in those days back then. Yeah. And the first band I was in was the Mad Violets with Wendy Wild. I was working at this club called Privates, basically just, cleanup guy going around getting the glasses off the tables and crap. It was fun. Find all the money and all the drugs people dropped. It was great. And Wendy Wild was the MC, and she wrote this song called Psilocybe about mushrooms, and we thought we'd start a band, and we did. That was the Mad Violets, and we did pretty good for a while. And after that, I started the Blacklight Chameleons. And I found the keyboard player, Bill Ebauer, through a good old Village Voice advertisement. And we rounded up the rest of the people from the scene at the Dive and the other clubs around town we were hanging out at. That was 1985. So we arrived alive in '85 and put out our first record right away. Recorded our 4-track reel-to-reel at the Music Room, Fuzztones Room. We shared with them. And they used to be called Teen Appeal, and one day Rudy came in, saw Wendy Wild and I learning some songs off Pebbles Volume 3, and he goes, wow, what a great idea. You could do a whole set of those old 60s songs, and no one would even know you didn't write them. And like a week later, they had changed the name of the band Teen Appeal to Fuzztones, and the rest is his story. So I'll let him tell it. Good time, though. Just incredible. We love to collect all the old Vox amps and guitars and stuff that we could find and anything that took us back to 1966 visually, so we could kind of stand there while we fed into the present and the future. Other bands I may remember from the dive scene. Well, yes, I remember the Bohemian Bedrocks. I'm not sure they played more than 1 or 2 actual live shows. They recorded, but Bobby was doing the Optic Nerve. That was his big deal. They were great. Optic Nerve, the Vipers, yes. The Out of Place, yes. Fuzztones, yeah, I seem to remember them. Mod Fun, Cheapskates, Trifles, Phase 1 Psychotics. We went out to Long Island, we played there, we were all wigged out of our skulls. The whole house started to jump up and down and shake and pulse, and it was like a scene out of The Exorcist or something, and we all ran out of the house, and we all stood staring at the house, and it was shaking, and never did figure out what caused that because it stopped. We all looked at each other and we went back in the house and the party resumed. But that was one little funny story I'll never forget about the Phase 1 Psychotics. Just going out there and seeing them play at Sparks and being at that party out there and then having that crazy stuff happen. That was one of those mysteries lost to the mists of time. Now it says, why do I think cheap ma and pa kettle nightclubs are important for stimulating the birth of good bands? Well, take a club like CBGB's. It's like the Beatles of bands. It just kind of formed out of nowhere, and it went for 25 years, changed the world without really even trying, without any pre-plan. I mean, you've got thousands of highly paid professional club operators opening up clubs in New York City the whole 45 years I've been there. And they come and they go, and they can't keep them open for more than a year or 2 or 3. They just can't do it. All the king's horses and all the king's men, they can't keep a club going. But CBGBs would just keep going and going and going, and year in and decade out, just keep going and going and going and going. That was the formula that couldn't be duplicated. Couldn't be depleted or duplicated. So it just kept going. It's really tough doing this all by yourself. When did I first come to be in New York? Well, my mom moved there in 1970, so I would go visit her and see the city then. And then friends of mine in Pennsylvania, where I lived near Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, said, why don't we go to New York? Your mom lives there. We have a place we can stay. We can go to Max's Kansas City and see the rock and roll punk bands, like here in Cream Magazine. And we can go to CBGB's and see the Bee Gees. No, not see the Bee Gees. That would give you the heebie-jeebies. But we would go and park the car at a vacant lot and just leave it there and come back and get it when it was time to drive home. You could do that in New York in those days. And CBGB's and Max's is where we went. And when 3 Mile Island finally happened here in Harrisburg, I said, that's my calling card to get out of town. I mean, if I'm going to be in a poisonous, radioactive, toxic environment, I might as well be in New York. And I moved there, and it was really great. It was cheap, really cheap, didn't need a car. And people from all over the place were showing up. And made my life there. I've been there ever since. I had every job in the book supporting myself there. I arrived with nothing, but I did all right over the years. And still there. Still there. Well, we saw the Ramones, and we didn't see the Talking Heads. Didn't see Blondie till later. But they were always hanging out. You could see them in the club hanging out. Saw Destroy All Monsters, which I explained earlier. They were probably my favorite. Oh. And, there were so many crazy bands back then. We even saw the Trogs do a reunion show at Max's. That was incredible, like 76 or something like that, 77. And it was the garage scene showing up that really made life get exciting there. I got a band going with Wendy Wild. Told you about that already. Finally got the Blacklight Chameleons, and the original lineup was Bill Ebauer on keyboards, and this girl Noreen Lewis played bass, and we got Andrea Matthews to play drums. She was already kind of on the scene, and that was the original lineup. And then Andrea quit to join the Maneaters, and I thought, great, we're losing a drummer to get another guitar player, just what the world needs. But we were kids, what we're going to do. And we had a few other people come in and out, and we finally, Bill and I got hold of Marilyn Doherty, who played bass, and she was a very good person to have in the crew. And we got Sharon Middendorf, Sharon to be the singer. She was a former Ford model, but she showed up at a band interview and band auditions, and she became our singer. So she's on the album. You can check it out. We had a lot of different drummers, but the guy on the album, Mark Wolf, he ended up finally moving to China, of all places, where they put him in kung fu movies, and the government there books you in musical tours, so you automatically play these giant stadiums. And I saw these really bizarre video clips of our funny little bearded drummer, Mark Wolf, being in these kung fu movies. He was like this old man kung fu guy, and then playing like these stand-up tom-toms in these giant arenas in China. It was like, it's very surreal just to think about. When I went to the Dive for the very first time, we were in the Mad Violets checking out the venue. We heard it was really great. I think Deb O'Neill and the Fuzz-Tones said, oh, you really got to go to the Dive. It's a good place to play, and the whole scene's really cool there. That's where this whole neo-60s scene is showing up. And first time I walked in the door, the band was just getting off the stage. It was Dave Herrera and the Cheapskates, and I remember seeing this guy, big mutton chop sideburns, his hair combed back, and he had this like military marching jacket on. And I thought, yeah, this is what it's supposed to be. Yeah, this is good. I felt good the first minute I walked in there. So that was our hangout. I think when Wendy and I got married, we even had our wedding reception there. We did everything. That place was our second home, even though it was across town. That was a pretty great place. And while I was there, someone else was going there that I didn't know, because there's this other scenes hanging out besides ours, believe it or not. And that's where Jinx Links actually was.
Aha.
Aha. I didn't meet her back then. I met her more recently. Now we're doing this great little project of our own, Jinx and DINO. I should hold up a little 45 or CD. Come over here, Jinx. Stick your face in the camera.
We just happen to have
the original one.
45 CD.
So she played in a band called The Lust, which is like not quite hardcore, but just regular punk rock, right, Jinx?
Yeah, I started out kind of like hardcore, and right before I was in that band, the bass player was Kimberly Smith, Patti Smith's sister. She left right before I came in, and we were located out on Long Island. We used to practice out in like Bellport or something, but of course came in for the Manhattan scene and played all of those places. Played the Dive, played CB's. There was a place called, I think, RT Firefly and the Underground, Street Level, lots of old places. And yeah, we were hanging out at the Dive, but we really had no idea about what else was going on there, except one night when we were going in, looked like some guys at pointy-toed boots were coming out, and we kind of like...
Where's your ship?
Probably snickered a bit at the time, but... you know, we were in crew cuts and all sorts of stuff like that. But remember the Dive well, Glenn and Voots, and my brother actually DJ'd there for a while.
Voots!
The porno films being played on the walls, all that stuff. And yeah, it was a great place. I don't remember the first time I went. I know we played there a lot of times.
We was all gazing at Glenn Gazin'.
That's the Glenn.
When I first met Jinx, she was singing background for Sam Andrews. Sam Houston Andrews, the guitar player for Big Brother and the Holding Company. And Mr. David Peel took me along to see this show at Chenet on St. Mark's Place, and there was Jinx Links.
There we were, and that was many moons.
And the rest is her story.
Yeah, that's it. That's my story. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah. We'll send you that picture of us someday so you can make that t-shirt. Don't worry. I remember being part of Vibes. Never heard of the Flesh Shows. I don't know who they are. Chesterfield Kings. There was a party in New Jersey when Tim Warren, the guy who put out the Back from the Grave series, when he got married, big old mansion on top of a wooded hill and fog-shrouded, rainy June afternoon. And the Chesterfield Kings played in the basement. It was probably the best show I ever saw them play. It was just incredible. And that whole day was just incredible. But I guess that's New Jersey. That's not New York, so it doesn't count for this. But that was a great, perfect party. The A-Bones and Chesterfield Kings played, and it was just this really amazing party going from one room to the next all day and in the afternoon and outside, and it was really great. The Ronchans, that was Chandler. He was a good guy. We miss him. And... who else, man? We saw, there was a band called the Hysteric Narcotics. I'm not quite even sure where they were from anymore, but he handed me a copy of their 45, and I still have it. And when I listen to it now, I'm like, wow. We weren't paying a lot of attention to the Hysteric Narcotics back then, but when you listen to the 45 now, it's like, wow, it's just really cool. Yeah. And played at CBGB's and the Dive. And there was all these strange little popping up and down clubs. And we did get to play at the Peppermint Lounge, and we did get to play at Irving Plaza. That was a pretty great show. And Black Light Chameleons came after Mad Violets. I'm getting lost here in the swirl of all this. But it was really a great time because I knew that even though it was this whole 60s thing that I grew up with as a kid, and it was great. I knew it wasn't going to last forever. I thought, I'm just going to jump into this and really enjoy it while it's here. Because all the other music that's happening is, hair metal was really big in the 80s. And that was like the antithesis of rock and roll to me. It was like, that's just me though. I mean, there's some stuff I like. Little did I know that this scene was going to go on for another 40 years. And it's probably still happening. In fact, it's still happening. So I'm glad I got to be in on that. I'm glad it was around while I was around. And, it was the best way to spend the precious hours and years of my life. No, I don't regret it. I don't regret it at all. Oh, wait. No, I should have been a dog catcher. That would have been better. Okay.